I haven't worked in a coffee shop for several years, but I can still remember it pretty well, and lately for some reason I've been remembering some of the customers I used to serve. I don't know what this first guy's real name was, but we nicknamed him Gentleman Jim. He was about 50 or so, and he looked almost exactly like Santa Claus. One could easily assume that he was a rather lonely fellow, as he would bring a bouquet of flowers to my co-worker Muriel at least twice a week. A lot of people would think that that's sort of creepy, but I don't think she ever really thought so, as the guy seemed so utterly harmless. I suppose it may have been tedious for Muriel to let someone down easily several times a week, but I never asked her about it. Now, outside the shop I worked at, there was this small park that was pretty well packed with people asking for spare change, and this one particular fellow would dress up a little like Jimi Hendrix and perform atonal, non-musical, stunningly incompetent guitar solos to whoever was listening. His general routine was to play for about 15 minutes, then retire to his sleeping bag to masturbate, and then get up and play again. He also had a rather novel method for getting a free cup of coffee out of me once. He ordered, and when I said, "That'll be $1.25, he reached into the crotch of his bicycle shorts and plopped a couple of very sweaty bills on the counter. I looked at the money and I said, "The coffee's on the house today, man," and then he picked up the bills and went about on his merry way. Next was a guy that I only saw once, but he was hard to forget. On a particularly slow and boring afternoon, this guy rode into the store on a unicycle wearing a pink spandex suit and recited a poem about how someone needs to be pink around here, and then he rode out again. If you don't believe me, keep in mind that this is downtown San Francisco. If you still don't believe me, Google Pink Man. You'll find him. This last guy needs a bit of an introduction. In the back room of the store, there was a big sign to the employees that said, "Do not serve the Honeyman coffee." I had just started working there, so I didn't know what it meant. I found out when one day I served this guy in a long coat, who then sat down at one of the tables and pulled out a few porno magazines with grocery bag book covers. After a while he asked me for the restroom key, and on his way he grabbed one of the honey dispensers off the condiment counter and disappeared into the bathroom for about 15 minutes. I can only guess what he did in there, but when he came out I momentarily considered trying to sterilize the honey container before I decided to just pick it up with a rubber glove and chuck the damn thing. I threw away the rubber glove too. Now, I'm not telling you about all of these people just to make fun of them. I have to admit that I think what fascinated me about these people is that I felt like I sort of understood them in a weird kind of way, and I was always thinking that it wouldn't have taken much for me to have become like any of them. For instance, if at one point in my youth I decided to take 5,000 hits of acid in one day, it's not much of a stretch to think that I would have become just like Eddie Van Homeless. And I don't know Pinkman's story, but I have a feeling that if I had done something in my past that I was really ashamed of, one of the more logical ways to cope with it would be to make a perpetual spectacle of yourself. Honeyman may be less than the others. I mean, thus far I haven't let my various perversions get too far out of control, but you can get back to me in 6 months about that. Gentleman Jim, however, I don't really want to think about, because I think I could very easily see myself becoming something like that. Maybe I'm afraid in some ways I'm already kind of like that.